Welcome to this week's Dear Old State Update. I'm Justine Moreau alongside Michael Landis, here to highlight our beat reporters who provided great coverage all across campus the past 2 weeks.
From Easter weekend extra inning madness to Dollar Dog Night, the WBIT tournament, and some classic Big Ten men's lacrosse showdowns, here's the Dear Old State Update.
Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
Who was your idol growing up? He's going to be someone to watch.
After being on the outside of the bubble for the NCAA tournament, the Penn State Lady Lions were a 1 seed in the WBIT, winning all 3 of their home games and making it to the Final Four, where they ultimately lost to Villanova. So, gentlemen, let's recap what got the Lady Lions to this Final Four and kind of some players that stepped up. Nico, I'll throw it over to you first.
Yeah, so one of the biggest reasons what helped them win their 3 games at home was Ashley Owusu. In the 3 games, she averaged almost 30 minutes a night. At 28 minutes, she averaged 20 points a night and shot 16 from 23 in all 3 games from the free throw line. So she was a massive part in all 3 of their home games. And then another massive part was they were the 1 seed, meaning they got to play all 3 of their games at home and pretty much control their destiny as to, are we going to play it at home? Are we going to go somewhere else? But luckily, they had the opportunity to play at home all 3 games. And during the regular season, they were 12-4 at home. So that's where they wanted to be, was at home. And then as they kept on winning, the crowd kept on getting bigger at the BJC. All 3 of the opposition coaches, said that the crowd at the BJC was lethal and it was a hostile environment to play in, and that they wished the game was at their site. So ultimately, that's what boosted their success.
Absolutely, Nico. The home court advantage was the biggest thing for this team. They fed off it. When the Lady Lions were not playing at home, they had either a 500 record or a losing record. They were able to play their game and feed off the crowd, feed off of Jeff Brown's voice at the BJC, and that's what they loved. They were able to play their style of basketball, shoot threes, play gritty defense, and that's exactly what got them through these games.
Yeah, guys, I definitely agree. Home court advantage will always help your team out and get you there, but when they had to travel to Indianapolis to play Villanova, that's where we met in some problems. So now I want to throw it back to you, Joey. What kind of went wrong for the Lady Lions in that game against Villanova?
They weren't able to play their game. They had a neutral site game where they are 500, and they weren't able to play Lady Lions basketball. They played Villanova basketball today, and that's what happened. That is the lowest score that they have put up all season, and there's a reason why. Villanova is a very savvy defensive team. Penn State is also very savvy, but they are also a very explosive offensive team, and that's not what you were able to see today. The offense was not firing on all cylinders. They were making errored passes. Leilani Kapanis had a 50-yard bomb down the field to Jayla Oden, and she didn't need to late in the game, and that's ultimately what ended up throwing away the game. And then even later, Allie Brigham did the same thing. She tried a pop pass over to Kylie Lavelle, overthrew her. These costly turnovers are what costed the team this game.
Yeah, Joey, I couldn't agree more. And they had their worst game all year from the field, shooting-wise. They shot 29% from the field. As I said, again, the worst they shot all year long. And on top of what you already said, the lowest points they scored all year long. Lady Lions also shot 36% from the free throw range, which is significantly worse than where they're usually at. They're usually about 40 to high 50s shooting from threes. And on top of that, they had 6 players combined for 4 points. That just can't happen in a win or take all game. And then on top of that, they shot better than Villanova from 3 and from the foul line, which just ultimately couldn't help them win the game.
Yeah, I mean, guys, obviously you're going to have a lot of changes when you go from playing 3 straight home games to a neutral site. And like you said, the Lady Lions struggled a bit in that spot. But since it's the end of the season for them, we're looking towards the future now. So I want to know from you guys, what are some of the bright spots on this team that they can look to build forward for the future, Nico?
Yeah, so the first bright spot is going to be sophomore Shea Chesky. She played in all 35 of their games and started in 30 of them. She scored 404 points, which was the second most on the team all year long. She shot 73 threes and had 83 assists all year long. And next year she's going to be a junior, so she's going to be in more of a leadership role with this team. My other player is going to be now current junior, Allie Campbell, who didn't really have as good of a year as Shea did. She missed some time with injury, but she still played in 25 out of the 20 games that she was eligible for. So she stepped on the court and had minutes and had production in all 25 of those games. And then on top of that, she's going to be one of the only 3 seniors on the team next year. So she's also going to be in a significantly bigger leadership role than she was this year. And from the time that she did play, she always had production. She had 4 blocks and 19 steals all year. So I think she's definitely going to play a bigger part next year.
You want to talk about seniors that are coming back? Leilani Kapanis is probably the biggest name on that team returning, and she deserves it. Once that Big Ten tournament happened, she was the biggest name on the team. She got all the media coverage, all the attention from coaches. Teams were scheming around making sure that Leilani Kapanis did not ruin their game plan. And she continued to do it game after game. I expect a huge jump for her, barring that she doesn't transfer. And I expect her to be the focal point of this new team next year. That's going to need some pieces. And when you talk about needing some pieces, that ties right into my other bright spot, which is Coach Carolyn Keeger. Many people have been very critical of Coach Keeger over her time at Penn State. I am not one of them now after this year. I think Coach Keeger has instilled finally her culture of what she wants Penn State Lady Lions basketball to be. She has been able to continuously win every year that she's had, and she has finally been able to get her players in the portal. Now, with a lot of players leaving, she's going to need to get more players in the portal, which I think she's going to do. But she has been building the game of basketball, and especially women's basketball, here in Penn State. And that's exactly what you want from a coach, and I expect it to keep coming in the future.
Absolutely. We'll just have to wait and see. An impressive tournament run finally ends a remarkable season for the Penn State Lady Lions as they will look to make even further strides next year. That's all for us. Now over to Jackson Tortone and Ali Wenskowski to discuss Penn State baseball.
Thanks, guys. The Penn State baseball team is going through a bit of a rough patch right now, losing 5 of their last 7 and now sitting at 1-5 in Big Ten conference play. So, Ali, please tell me about the first Big Ten play here at Penn State against Michigan, the first in-conference play. Tell me how that series went.
So it didn't go as well as Penn State hoped. As you said, it was the first Big Ten conference play, and it was hosted at Penn State. But they won the first one. They got the first win in Big Ten play. They went 1-0 in conference play, and that was a score by 4-3. It was a walk-off by Grant Norris. So it was kind of a storybook ending as Penn State tried to get their footing against Michigan, but it may have been a little bit of a fluke win, as we'll talk about a little bit later, because they move on to their second game. Didn't go quite as well as they thought. They got 4 runs in the 3rd inning, but that would be the last of their scoring all game, and they would drop that one 9-6. So then moving to Sunday, winner take all, winner gets the series, and it would be Michigan that did it. They went up 10-1. Penn State just couldn't get the bats going as much as they needed to. They got them going just a little bit. They got 5 more runs, but they ended up losing 11-6.
Yeah, so I'm noticing, the Penn State offense seems to be going, decently, but it seems that the defense and the pitching is really costing this team. I mean, giving up 11 runs, 9 runs, and, that one first game, but the Penn State pitching still gave up 14 walks in that game. So there's always been a problem on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that really carried over into this next series that happened this last weekend in Illinois, where they were swept and gave up a total of 43 runs. Tell me more about that one.
Absolutely, Jackson. Like you said, they gave up 43 runs on the weekend, which is not numbers that we like to see or
Sounds
tend
like an
to see.
SEC football game.
Exactly, and that's how the first game was. It was a football score, 14-10. Penn State they put up 10 runs, so they're putting up runs on the board, but they're just not getting that defense. I mean, you can't just give up 14 runs and expect to win a game, so that's something they need to work on. They moved into game 2, similar fashion. In fact, they went up 6-0, but then would give up the lead back to 7-6 and then give up 10 more runs and get run ruled a 17-6 game. Not exactly what they were looking for with that 6-0 lead. And then game 3, they needed one to stay on the board. They already lost the series, but they needed one just to save face, and they just didn't get it. Adam Cesari had a 3-run shot to put the Penn State Nittany Lions up 3-0. They would go up 4-0, but then give the lead back, and they would lose 12-8.
So again, I'm noticing a pretty common theme of this offense, staying, like you said, Adam Cecere, guys like, JT Marr and like Grant Norris, like these hitters are very good. They can put the bat on the ball. But just, especially in the Michigan series, I remember one game there were 4 errors, there were 5 errors by the Nittany Lions, and just the pitching isn't great. The ERAs went soaring up from the series, obviously, and they need to improve that side of the ball, or else they will never be able to contend within the Big Ten Conference.
Absolutely.
So, we have a couple upcoming series here, here in University Park, and what do you think is going to happen with Northwestern and with the upcoming Dollar Dog Night?
So Dollar Dog Night for Dollar Dog Night fans was canceled due to the rain in Happy Valley. It's Happy Valley, not Sunshine Valley, unfortunately. As we know. So Bucknell canceled completely on Tuesday, but then they will have a Big Ten Conference opponent hosted at home this weekend with Northwestern. And Northwestern's struggling also. They have lost 5 of their last consecutive games. They're 10-15, 0-3 in the conference. So they lost to Nebraska this past weekend. They're still looking for their first win in Big Ten play. Penn State got it against Michigan, but need to get back on their feet, and they need to bring some defense and pitching if they'd like to do any work against Northwestern.
No, I agree with you. I think that this series is against a worse team. Maybe this can help them build some confidence on the defensive side of the ball, especially obviously fielding, outfield, pitching, just getting some lockdown innings and just building it up for when they have to play better teams, such as maybe Ohio State, maybe Michigan again,
Exactly.
These better teams. So it's really up to them if they want to improve their season. The Nittany Lions will return to Medler Field this Tuesday to play Bucknell for Dollar Dog Night. They will then play another 3-game in-conference series against the Northwestern Wildcats. Now I would like to hand it over to Chris Machado, Will Dorkson, and Annika Wagner to discuss Penn State softball.
Thanks, Jackson and Allie. The Penn State Nittany Lions currently post a record of 26-7, and they are 3rd in the Big Ten standings after taking 2-1 against the Maryland Terrapins this past weekend. However, Penn State struggled to get any offense going in Game 1 and 3, which is very uncharacteristic up to this point in the season. So, Will, I'll hand you this one first. This team, a super high-power offense since the Invitational. What went wrong, and what can they fix before Friday against Nebraska?
Well, what went wrong was 2 simple words, Chris. Courtney Weich. The turtle would not come out of her shell all weekend long, if you will. Weich, every time she came out, she was dominant. 19 strikeouts Friday and over 10 on Sunday. Every time she came out to pitch for every extra inning, I was saying to myself, how is Penn State going to get a hit off Weich? That's how dominant she is. And the solution for Penn State is simple: extra base hits. On Saturday, Gabby Garcia had a home run off Courtney Weich. That was the first time we saw Weich get rattled all series. And then on Sunday, Maddie Gordon and Liana Jones, back-to-back doubles, both extra base hits. And because a softball field is smaller than a baseball field, only 60 feet separates each base, one extra base hit makes it a lot easier to play small ball and a lot easier to get a run on the board.
Absolutely, Will. I'll just echo it. I mean, I think that Gabby Garcia has been such an impactful person this year for Penn State. She had the walk-off single against Lehigh in the Invitational. She had a grand slam against Bucknell this past week. And then on Saturday, she was able to crack through and get Weich to rattle a little bit. She has been so important, and I think that she will be a focal point of the team going forward. This team has a lot of powerful hitters. Liana Jones, Maddie Gordon, they can really clutch up in key moments, as we saw on Sunday. And then there are players, batters like Emily Maddock, who can work pitchers deep into the count, which is so important for Penn State to throw these pitchers off and to just crack at it. I mean, Coach Crowell said it herself. They play gritty, not pretty. They just work at it, and then they are able to break through.
Yeah, and you mentioned Weich. I mean, 19 strikeouts in that first game, but enough on the Terps pitching. Let's go over to Penn State's pitching, right? It's been up, it's been down, but guess what? They have a freshman by the name of Bridget Namath. And Annika, I'll hand this one over to you this time. It seems that Bridget, though, it's kind of negative for Penn State because it seems that so far she's the only pitcher they can go to. She's had phenomenal starts. She's come out in relief to get them out of jams, but who else needs to step up?
Yeah, absolutely. Bridget is an amazing pitcher. We've seen it. She is dominant. She has been dominant this entire season. Friday was her first recorded loss, but then she came back in on Sunday and dominated 6 innings, 1 hit, 8 strikeouts. She has the lowest ERA in the Big Ten. She has a 1.01 earned run average, which is insane. She is the focal point for this Penn State pitching. But I think that someone who is a little underrated, if you will, is Maddie Volpe. She hasn't been as dominant this homestand. She has struggled with control, and therefore she hasn't played as much, only coming in for a couple innings or so here and there. But this weekend was, in my opinion, her best performance that we have seen. On Sunday, she dominated with 6 innings, 1 hit, no runs. And I think that if she continues like she did on Sunday, then she will be a great number 2 that Penn State can call upon in these moments.
Yeah, Annika, I'll piggyback off your point, but first I'll talk about Bridget Namath. Crowell called her a workhorse, and that's the perfect nickname for Bridget Namath because any given day, she will go out and pitch for as long as she can. She's a true workhorse, and she's been amazing to watch. But I'll go back to your point about Maddie Volpe for a second. This weekend was the best I have seen Maddie Volpe pitch. Saturday comes in for the first time in a while against the Terps, calls a timeout, and on the next pitch, she gives up a home run. And then after that, it was a whole new pitcher. Volpe is so competitive. She wears her heart on her sleeve when she pitches, and you can see that every time she steps into the circle. She was locked in on Saturday. She was locked in on Sunday. Every great Batman needs a Robin, and when you have a fiery Robin like Maddie Volpe, that can take you pretty far. I also want to touch on the other pitchers because Paige Maynard, the pitcher on your left, on your screen, we've been seeing a lot more of her as of late. But the thing with Maynard is she doesn't pitch deep into games. We typically see Maynard for maybe once or twice around the batting order, and Crowell will call in Volpe or Bridget Namath. That's not a bad strategy now, but I want to see that in the postseason play because you cannot have Bridget Namath pitch on 3 or 4 straight days in the postseason. That's not going to cut it. Also, Lydia Spalding has been out. She hasn't pitched since March 17th. When she comes back, this rotation has the potential to be really dangerous in the Big Ten, assuming everybody's available and ready to go.
Yeah, Will, you mentioned Maynard, right? And I feel that Penn State softball fans have fallen almost into this false notion that Namath and Volpe are the starters and Spalding and Maynard are the relievers. But you mentioned that, right? Because we've seen Maynard come out twice now for 3-inning starts. If they can develop her into a deep starter, you're going to have 3 amazing pitchers. It goes without saying that Team 59 has been one of the most successful and impactful teams on campus thus far in the past 2 seasons. Head coach Clarissa Crowell has led the team to 30-plus wins, and they're just 4 more away from making that 3 years in a row. This team this year has a strict blue-collar 1-0 mindset every day, with Coach Crowell shutting down any questions that me, Annika, and Will ask during post-game media about winning and losing streaks. So now, Will Dirksen has more on how Penn State is sporting this mindset of gritty, not pretty.
Penn State dropped its first game to Maryland over the weekend and fell behind early in Saturday's 9-6 win. But home runs from 3 Nittany Lions, including catcher Gabby Garcia, swung the momentum in Penn State's favor. Garcia touched on the adjustments she made from Friday's loss that led to her insurance home run.
That off-speed stuff is up, and we're deep in the count. That's what we want to attack and hit if we're not hitting that curveball. But honestly, today I was like, I don't want another changeup, and if you're going to give me one, I'm putting it over that wall.
The Nittany Lions would need their newfound resilience the next day. With Maryland's Courtney White striking out many Penn State batters, Maddie Gordon stepped up in the 12th inning with a double. One batter later, Gordon scored the game's only run as Penn State walked off the Terrapins on a Liana Jones double. Gordon said Sunday both wins led to something change within the locker room.
Yeah, and I think through everything, it just builds your culture and just being able to fight. We had to fight all weekend. Maryland's a great team, and they really it was back and forth. So just learning how to fight together like that and just coming closer.
Head coach Clarissa Crowell echoed Gordon's comments after witnessing her team win 2 games in as many days.
I think our kids are the toughest, grittiest team out there. The way that game ended, it just says a lot about the character of our team, and I think they just continue to grow and get tougher and get better together, and it's awesome to see.
Crowell's team will need to keep its mindset as it faces Nebraska for a 3-game series starting Friday. Reporting for Penn State Sports Night, I'm Will Dirksen.
Before the loss to Maryland just last night, Penn State lacrosse was off to a great start. They are now 7-2, but still have some time to go and get back on their game-winning streak. Our beat reporters Kayla McCullough, Cora Rodriguez, and Jamie DiBolonia have been able to cover it all.
The Penn State men's and women's lacrosse teams are in full swing this season. Joined by Cora Rodriguez and Jamie DiBolonia, my name is Kayla McCullough, and we have a lot to talk about in the world of Penn State lacrosse. Starting with the women's side, the Nittany Lions edged out a tough loss to Ohio State last Thursday in Columbus. Cora, what did you see in this game that caused the game to be so close?
You know, what I saw in that game was really a classic Penn State just kind of loss, especially with the women's lacrosse team. All this season has really been just a really strong first, second, third quarter, and then a fumble in the fourth quarter. I mean, even in this game, there was an 8-2 going into the fourth, and then Ohio State just had a 7-score run. And that's just kind of like what we've seen from this team. It's just kind of been back and forth of, oh, are they going to have a good fourth quarter or not going to have a fourth quarter?
Absolutely, I agree. I think draw control was a huge factor in this week's games, even in the men's game. You know, you can really see just how much of a big key aspect draw control is. If you're winning a face-off and you're not. So Penn State, they had Maryland had 16-5 on draw control, completely beating Penn State out. And, you know, they really began to chip away at that big lead margin. So it was interesting to see how much that draw control affects the game.
No, I definitely agree. It's crazy to see how quickly the opposing team, in this case, Ohio, was able to just take the lead over Penn State, how quickly Penn State was able to lose momentum.
I mean, even Kristen O'Neill during this game got 0 goals. Compared to Northwestern's upset, she had 6 goals during the game. Even the one that was like overtime, just that goal in overtime. And she had 0 during this. I have a theory about what Ohio State did. I think they saw what they did in Northwestern and how Kristen O'Neill was such an impactful person in that game. And they really just defended her off, kind of drawing in on her during defense when they were on Penn State was on the offensive side, and just kind of blocking her off and having those scoring chances. And I think that's really what helped Ohio State, especially in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, for sure. And then Jamie, what do you see Penn State having to do in order to improve and not lose their momentum in the fourth quarter?
Absolutely. I mean, they have to stay strong. I feel like Ohio came out super strong with them, scoring 7 goals in the fourth quarter. That's crazy. So I think they have to stay confident, stay strong throughout, keep momentum, and do the little things.
I mean, even Kate Tyak had 3 goals in the fourth quarter and an assist in that one. So she was really just really dominant player in that fourth.
For sure. Moving on to the men's side, similar thing happened this weekend. The men took on Maryland at Panzer Stadium. This past Sunday, it was a close game. They had the lead for most of the game. Fourth quarter came. Similar thing happened. They lost their momentum. Maryland took over, and Maryland ended up winning 13-11. So, Jamie, what did you see in that game that caused the men to be unable to take the win in this game?
Absolutely. Again, same thing with draw control. But to begin, Penn State came out super strong. Super fast-paced game. They were dominating the first quarter. Halftime comes. They're up 8-4. And then quickly, Maryland scores 2 goals right there. And in the fourth quarter, things just started to break down. They lost draw control, and that was a huge, huge deal. When you're not winning faceoffs, you're not winning the game. And they ended up losing because of it, because they lost so many draw controls.
I mean, I remember being at the game, and I just remember seeing Maryland be so dominant offensively. I remember there was a point where Maryland scored a goal, and then they were doing the draw in the middle of the field, and then they scored again before the announcer could even say the goal from the previous. So having that very aggressive offense really helped Maryland, and even their mindset even before. They were just very into it. Like, you should have seen them during pregame. They were going at it. They were screaming. They were hyping themselves up. And it's just really impactful of the way they just got out there on that field and really just dominated and even had the upset. They were 14 and Penn State was 4, so they drew that upset.
For sure, and even the crowds during this game were very, very ecstatic. But something that Penn State just needs to continue to work on is keeping their momentum going. They had it in the first quarter. Their offense was there. Their defense was there. First half even. But as the game goes on, they lose what they have. They let Maryland take control, and that's just something that they need to continue to work on this season. I look forward to seeing what both the men's and women's team accomplish the rest of the season. For Cora Rodriguez and Jamie Di Bologna, I'm Kayla McCullough. Now let's take a look at our top plays from recent weeks.
Starting with number 1, women's lacrosse. During a free possession shot, Kristen O'Neill secured the win, taking down number 1 Northwestern 14-13.
Coming in at number 2, Penn State softball. After 12 scoreless innings in a rubber match game against the Maryland Terrapins, Leanna Jones hit a walk-off double, securing the win for the Nittany Lions 1-0. Coming in at number 3, Penn State men's lacrosse. Jack Frassione did his best Easter Bunny impression, preventing a goal by catching ball with his ankles. Coming in at number 4, Penn State baseball. After a deep hit out to right field, Adam Cesari reached back and made the catch at the warning track to get the Nittany Lions out of the inning.
Number 5, women's basketball. After a steal from Grace Hall, she quickly passed the ball to Leilani Cappins. Cappins was able to run the ball up the court, leading to a basket for the Lady Lions.
Those were some awesome top plays. I can't wait to see what these sports do the rest of the season.
Definitely. That's all for this week's edition of Dear Old State Update. Thank you to our entire crew here at Penn State Sports Night. For Michael Landis, I'm Jaseni Marrero. Have a great night.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and follow our socials down below.
And as always, we are
Penn State Sports Night.